Hey, brothers and sisters, what's up? Say it now. I'm black and I'm proud. Famous quote from a song by James Brown. When at the time we were trying to instill pride in the Afro American. When at the time we had a group called the Black Panthers, who were known for being law abiding citizens that understood the law to the letter and went around and protected the Afro community. They also created Meals on Wheels, safe, after school, and programs, school breakfast. So, all the stuff that people are enjoying today, WIC. For you Hispanic people that thought that this came from the US government, no, it came from Afro people, the Black Panthers. All these Meals on Wheels. In class today, there was people talking about the food shortage and they mentioned Meals on Wheels without understanding that most of the programs that they were mentioning that serves people were created by the Black Panthers, Afro men. All right. They were subdued and subverted by black women from the inside out. COINTELPRO, all of that. Not only that, to make sure that our movements will stay dead, that we will forget to fight for justice instead of privilege. They subverted our movements and gave them to the LG, to the tune that people don't realize that that alphabet community consists of 79% people that identify as European Caucasians. And still, as a result of this, people fail to realize that it's difficult for us to do stuff for ourselves because our government uses the closest thing to us, the BAW, to not only subvert our movements, but to destroy our voices. What you are looking at now is a group of black women that got together and looked for only, specifically, and you can see this, look for only black men's channel to destroy and take them down. They were after harming their money. These are guys that pay child support or was trying to take care of family, was trying to be law-abiding citizen. No, the Detroit 300 that cleaned up the community from drug dealers. Well, for the black women, they said, wait a minute. These drug dealers are our sons that bring us this money. So let's get rid of the guys that's keeping the community safe. And so these women went and sued the Detroit 300 out of business. Was it the white man? No. Was it the Hispanic man? No. Was it the white woman? No. No, not the Hispanic woman either. You know, those are the people that people are afraid that Afro men are going to go to because they see how treasonous the black woman is going to be towards them. I want y'all to understand stuff. We are at a critical juncture where the Afro man is going extinct. And it is primarily because of the BAW, the American black woman. Now let's get really into this. But first, let me remind you, y'all know what to do. All my donation links will be in the description box for those that want to help with what I do for the community, both here and abroad. Now, let me greet everybody also real quick. Horton Hardugu Dog Ola Oi to the Bang, Vasas Los Bonjour Mizumi, Ketabawani Kunichiwa, Nianiama, Sani Bonani, Jumbo Herbaragani, Assalamu alaikum Shalom, Talofa Lava Soifua, Kumusta Ka, Kumusta Pokayo, to my people out in the Philippines. All right, and so we're going to break this down as to what they did. And one, like I said, they sabotaged our movement. And Now they're sabotaging the family unit and trying to destroy it. And this is how it's being done. All right, so first, I want y'all to pay attention to this and check out blackgenocide.org. The link will be in the description box. Pastor Clenard Childress, he is the one that came up with this and done.
Explain what it is, why we are.
This is the guy that came up with this and did all the research there on blackgenocide.org. Right? Now, granted, he's a preacher, but you need to listen to what he's saying and then go to the link and look at the research. It's scary. The damage that they were able to get. Our BAWs, our queen to be, to do to the community.
Where we are and what will happen if we don't affect that number.
Well, just to say so your listeners would understand, the Hispanic woman, each Hispanic woman has 3.4 children, or almost 4 children. Each Hispanic woman, at least 3. Caucasian women have 2. Every Caucasian woman has at least 2 children. The African American woman now is having 1.97, meaning she's not at replacement rate. We are not at replacement rate because 2 people should have another 2 people to replace themselves. Okay, so we are below that for the first time in our history being on this terra firma. And so you have to understand that is directly linked to our high abortion rate. Now also remember this, because this is key. That number in 2002 by the U.S. Census includes citizens from the island communities, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, Haiti.
All people of color is what
yes, all people of color. So you got to understand, that means the indigenous black man is near extinction.
Right.
Now, here's the other thing I want you to point out. He mentioned in 2002. So remember, for those of you that's been around, we went and looked at the abortion rate when it was 65 million, and black women was 37% of that. Now, and even if you take 36% of it, it doesn't matter, because you're leaving out California, New Hampshire, and Maryland. California is heavily black centered, as far as a lot of black females, liberal, and Maryland the same way. And when you do the math, you would find that they had killed over 23 million if you count to today, and understand that they had abort close to 1,000 babies a day. And the states that have the most abortions were the ones that were still allowing abortions, saying that they were necessary, while saying heart surgery, cancer treatment, and all of that stuff was not critical or necessary. I want y'all to think about that for a second. All right? Now, as you think about that, remember this. That was on the family. This is on our movements. Remember, the goal is to prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups. Right? This is our government. This is what our government was doing. Prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. Prevent the black nationalist groups and leaders from gaining respectability by discrediting them to the community. And the best way they do that is sexual things like Bill Cosby. You frame him, and he's getting a retrial because they framed him on a woman that they got to lie 6 times, and they waited till she practiced her lie enough so that they could put him away because he was about to buy NBC. This is something they're not going to tell you, Caucasian people and Hispanic people, but the Afro people that follow the news, follow the trajectory, understand how the government works towards us, is different from us how they treat us versus how they treat Hispanics and Caucasian people. So you Hispanics people watching the channel, this is what we have to go through. All right. You got governors in states fighting for your right as illegal immigrants to get all the benefits of legal Hispanic immigrants that had to go through the process. And still, you Hispanics still have more rights in the United States than the Afro man who built this country. Ooh, that's another one we're going to get into. Follow the money. This country would be garbage had it not been for slave labor and the work and brain mentality of the Afro man. Even though reading was a punishable offense, punishable by death. A final goal should be to prevent the long-range growth of militant black nationalist organizations, especially among the youth. Like I said, this is your excerpts from the FBI COINTELPRO. This was the same government that signed in the civil rights legislation. But when they signed it in, they said, we're going to give them enough to shut them up, but not enough to make a difference. These are our leaders that everybody depend on for their privilege when we don't even have rights. So you Hispanics and white people understand that all these leaders were assassinated.
This country has never cared about black people. That's right. They don't give two damns about us. And all of us always turn around worrying about what's good for America, what's good later for America, what's good for black people.
Now, you know what they're going to say, not guilty? Because no one saw them pull the trigger? I'm tired of that.
Police brutality,
Don't
not
bow
new.
down anymore. Hold your heads up. We want our freedom now. I don't want to have to go to another memorial. I'm tired of children. I'm tired of it. Got to stand up.
We must
Assassinated, Stokely Carmichael. This is Martin Luther King.
also realize that the problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.
Martin Luther King, understand, he was talking about injustice. We weren't talking about privilege. We didn't want no privilege. We wanted justice because this country has always been an unjust country to the Afro people.
If you can't do for yourself what the white man is doing for himself, don't say you're equal with the white man. Right. If you can't set up a factory like he sets up a factory, don't talk that old equality talk.
And that's where we stand right now. Injustice all the way down. And just because 1% of you black people make it, don't mean you speak for the injustices against the rest of the 99% of the Afro people in this country. All you do is football players on TV saying, look, I made it, so this country is great. No, this country has never been great. And ironically, under Trump, this country was becoming better for the Afro person. But look who shut that down, the left. You know, we can't have all them Negroes having jobs. The left shut that down. As ignorant as Trump is, that dude was the best thing for us. And we were so dumb and just as ignorant that we decided to hate that man because the media told us to. When this dude also said that in his battle of the ballot or the bullet speech, he said, any black person voting Democrat is a traitor to their race. Because he, Martin Luther King, and all the rest of the guys, they were Republican. And they understood the corrupt nature of the Democrats and understood that they were responsible for every wicked law and evil thing that happened to us from us not being allowed to read, as being allowed to read or reading by a Afro person was punishable by death. Grasp that. Put that around your head, your fingers. Hispanic people, white people. This was the real injustice. And this went on all the way through Jim Crow. These laws only came off the books in the 60s, really. When you really think about it. In the 20s, we were able to do some things, but with reckless abandonment, these people were able to do a lot of damage to us. All right, let's move on.
These people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
See, our government is quick to fight for checks for Hispanic people, as they allow everybody to hijack our movements. But what Hispanic people don't realize that when you hijack our movements, you're not looking out for justice for ourselves. You're looking out for what you can get for yourself off of our backs. But then again, you're trying to get a better life for your family. And since the Caucasian government is giving it to you off of our backs, you don't know that because you don't know this history. This history isn't taught in school. This history is shown in the newspapers. This woman name is Isola Ware Curry. Why do I have her here? Why is that police officer smiling as he leads her out politely? This black woman was the first assassination attempt on Dr. Martin Luther King, and she was almost successful. And that white police officer finds that amusing. Really finds that amusing. Here's the news article from that day. So she made the news big time. Subvert the family. This is how they did this. What I showed you prior is how they destroyed our leadership, or anybody that think they would want to be a leader. This is how they subvert the family. At one point, the Afro people were doing better as a group than we are doing now. Even in the midst of Jim Crow and all of that, we had Black Wall Streets everywhere. And no matter what these simps tried to argue about anything as a community, we did better then than we're doing now. And had we been able to persevere as a community, given the strides that we were making then, without them being subverted by the legislation of the 1960s by the Democratic the Democrats in office, we would be a lot further along, and we would not be talking about the genocide of the Afro male, as I am referring to and speaking of right now. This is why we cannot reach TPR, total population replacement. We are in a system of oppression that despises the leadership of fathers and primarily targeted was the Afro family, because they figured out that there are more Caucasian people here. If they can make these laws that go against men, by the time they eliminate us totally, there would be enough Caucasian men to repopulate or repair the damage done to people as a whole by the mentality they gave the women like these.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility. And then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so, you know, it really, male figures not substantially important in the family.
So you hear that? You see how they laughed at the one woman that wanted to be married? You saw how stupid of a thing to say that this was that it was to say that men are not necessary to only one of them females. Now think about what they taught all of their children, and think of that mentality growing exponentially as these women run around and get ran through by any Pookie and Ray Ray out in the street that they choose. And this was according to the Moynihan report. When I showed you or told you that 80% of Afro children grew up in two-parents households during the time of Black Wall Street before the 50s, that was according to the New York press, the New York Times. All right, so y'all know this already. Now let's look at how they're trying to destroy our family unit and who they're using.
We call heteronormativity, which is a big word for relationships, marriage. It's just between a man and a woman. It's the patriarchal family as we understand it. What's important to us in Black Lives Matter is that we are elevating and cultivating the leadership of folks who have not been included in the conversation. That includes Black trans women. That includes Black immigrant women, Black disabled folks, Black incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people. So to us, right, we're really trying to queer our movement.
You see what I'm saying? For them, they're really trying to destroy the movement. All right, I want y'all to understand that. All right, and as you saw from the Williams Law UCLA, that most of this movement consists of Caucasian people. But these people were able to take gains off of the backs of the civil rights movement and transfer the gains that we were supposed to have from our civil rights to their privilege as Caucasian people. Just keep this in mind. When you see them, you don't know what they do in their bedroom. You see them as Caucasian people out in the street, in the boardrooms, in Hollywood. Who cares what they do with their bedroom? They do. And then they'll bludgeon you over the head with it by saying that we get these privileges over your rights. Remember, these are still to the tune of 79% European Caucasian, meaning non-Negroid, that took all these rights from us, and they're able to do it because of, well, who they are. Let's continue. Their goal is to we make our spaces a family friendly and stuff. We dismantle We're looking at red in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraph. We dismantle, is underlined in red, patriarchal practice. They dismantle the family. That requires mother to work double shifts. And so they're putting all the negative things. But in the patriarchal family, mothers didn't have to work double shifts. They worked a shift. The man worked a shift. The man usually worked longer hours. He brought home and took care of in other words, the man's job was to make the load lighter on the woman. That's the patriarchal side. His job was to protect the woman. They didn't want that. They don't want protection in the home, is because then it leaves the home open to an assault, mental, spiritually, and even physically, to these children. Remember, most males that end up in that community because they were assaulted when they were children. A 12-year-old and 8-year-old right now with the 8-year-old with the permission of the mother can have a sex change operation, and a 12-year-old can do it without permission. These are assaults on children. I don't care what you say. You can't have a doctor's operation without parents for heart surgery. And you're going to reassign. Anyway, so there it is. This is the homicide breakdown. When you look at it, you look at the black woman, but look at the black men. And we're using the term black here instead of aboriginal, indigenous, because we're citing this work that was done. And these are all the places it was done by: The Guardian, Washington Post. National epidemic and fatal transgender violence in the United States was just 0.3%, or 3%. Of the 2026 annual transgender homicides. So this is the Washington Post and The Guardian. Again, the biggest problem that we've had in our community has never been police violence towards us, black on black crime, accidents, cancer, or heart disease. All right, this was as of 2004. So when he was talking about 2002, it was at 11 million. 2004, it was at 15 million. By the time we got to 2018, it was 22 million. We are the only minority in the United States that is on the decline in population. We just want justice. Period. That's all we want. We can't get justice. America is going to go down in flames, and there is not going to be much that anybody can do to save it. Because if you get rid of us, you get rid of everything. You get rid of your income source. You get rid of the popularity of your sports and music. Period. This has been a no depolicing zone. This is why brothers need to escape, save themselves. And in order to rebuild our community, we have to get wives from other communities and other places outside of the United States. This is why I say get them passports and travel, brothers. With that said, I'm out.